Major astrological signatures and overarching themes of 2026, navigating the 2026 Triple Ingress. A year of dual extremes, destruction and innovation, transformation and turbulence. The overarching theme of 2026 is the birth of a new era. It is a year where the chaos of the new is far more profitable than the safety of the old. This transition is not a smooth ride, but a series of jolts that redefine the concept of value. For investors, 2026 demands a high degree of adaptability to navigate the intense periods of reevaluation that occur in the wake of such profound astrological shifts. As the world struggles to redefine the fundamental nature of value, those who can withstand the volatility and understand the emerging digital architecture will be best positioned for the future. The collective energy is moving away from the stabilizing, stagnant elements of earth and water into the volatile, visionary, and rapid-fire nature of fire and air. While this transition is inevitably fraught with geopolitical turmoil and systemic crises, it provides the necessary vacuum for bold new realities to emerge, ending the economic stagnation of previous decades. As the collective energy shifts away from the stabilizing elements of earth and water toward the volatile and visionary nature of fire and air, the journey toward a new economic paradigm will be characterized by extreme fluctuations rather than steady growth, forcing a total redefinition of the fundamental nature of value. The transition through 2026 will be a year of dual extremes, destruction and rebirth, crisis and innovation. The first half is dominated by the somber, restrictive, and often confusing energy of the Saturn-Neptune conjunction in Aries. This period signals a radical departure from established economic norms, likely characterized by geopolitical turmoil and systemic crises as long-standing systems dissolve. However, this disruption creates a necessary vacuum for bold new realities to emerge. As the year progresses, with Uranus in Gemini, the latter half introduces a high-velocity, speculative narrative, shifting the financial atmosphere from confusion to rapid-fire action. Consequently, the year will be characterized by a series of jolts that redefine the fundamental nature of value, effectively ending the economic stagnation of previous decades and setting the stage for a decentralized, digitized future. This painful but necessary hard reset clears the path for a new paradigm built on blockchain technology, artificial intelligence, and a fundamental revaluation of what constitutes a value. The Mars-ruled dynamic, a year of fiery volatility. The structural shift, Saturn in Aries and Uranus in Gemini. The cosmic blueprint of 2026, a financial reset forged in the stars, introducing a new financial system. The year 2026 stands as a rare astrological inflection point, where celestial alignments converge with such intensity that a profound transformation of the global financial architecture becomes not only possible, but cosmically inevitable. In the framework of Western tropical financial astrology, planetary movements are not mere celestial curiosities, they are dynamic forces that shape human institutions, especially those built upon trust, perception, and value, like money itself. As the ancient maxim holds, when the planets make the aspects, the markets must obey. The confluence of a Saturn-Neptune conjunction, Uranus entering Gemini, eclipses on critical financial angles, and a Jupiter-Pluto opposition signals that 2026 will not merely witness economic fluctuations, but the birth of an entirely new financial paradigm. A great financial reset in structure, psychology, and cosmic timing. The Mars-ruled dynamic, a year of fiery volatility. Astrologically, 2026 is ruled by the red planet Mars, signaling a year of aggressive action, high energy, and dramatic price movements. Mars' journey moves from the disciplined discipline of Capricorn early in the year into the headstrong aggression of its home sign, Aries, and finally into the dramatic spotlight of Leo. This progression suggests the market will move from regulatory consolidation to bold, high-stakes speculation. Key alignments underscore this volatility. The Saturn-Neptune conjunction on February 20th is a rare 40-year alignment that fuses infrastructure with vision, likely triggering major launches in Web3 and AI. By November 16, the Mars-Jupiter conjunction provides the grand climax, heralding breakthroughs in decentralized AI, Ethereum upgrades, and a strong recovery for Solana. Throughout the year, eclipses in Leo will test the leadership of key figures, while Uranus in Gemini, retrograde until December, accelerates the development of decentralized communication and autonomous AI agents. The structural shift, Saturn in Aries and Uranus in Gemini. The year 2026 represents a pivotal turning point for the cryptocurrency ecosystem, defined by two major planetary ingresses that will reshape the market's psychological and structural landscape. On February 14, Saturn enters Aries, marking a period where the highly volatile and pioneering nature of crypto assets will be subjected to painful but necessary discipline and regulation. This transit imposes hard boundaries on speculation, demanding maturity and accountability from projects that have previously operated in the Wild West. Following this, on April 26, Uranus moves into Gemini, introducing massive volatility and rapid disruption to the underlying infrastructure, communication networks, and exchanges that support the digital asset economy. While Saturn tightens the rules, Uranus accelerates the innovation, creating a year that transitions from a post-cycle low in the first quarter into a massive speculative rally by the third quarter. The Bitcoin and crypto market in 2026, from regulatory cleansing to speculative eruption. The shifting status of the US dollar and hard assets. 2026 stands as a pivotal and intensely dynamic year for the cryptocurrency markets, shaped by a confluence of profound astrological forces that herald both groundbreaking innovation and deep structural recalibration. At the heart of the year's energetic blueprint is Pluto's continued transit through Aquarius, a slow-moving but powerfully transformative influence that underscores the decentralization of power, technological evolution, and the rise of community-driven governance in the digital asset space. This long-term shift supports the maturation of blockchain ecosystems, fostering new models of transparency, autonomy, and institutional integration. While not immediately visible in price action, Pluto's presence lays the foundation for a fundamental reimagining of how value, trust, and authority are distributed in the financial world, making it a deeply bullish undercurrent for the crypto sector's long-term trajectory. For the cryptocurrency markets, 2026 will likely be a year of two distinct halves. The initial months, under the heavy influence of Saturn in Aries, will focus on rigorous new regulatory frameworks and a cleansing of projects that lack real-world utility. During this period of structural reform, Bitcoin may solidify its narrative as digital gold, serving as a stable refuge while the legacy banking sector undergoes a painful overhaul. However, this phase may also be marked by visionary confusion, leading to deflationary pressure and a bearish atmosphere as investors grapple with the obsolescence of traditional banking methods. By late June, as Jupiter enters Leo, a renewed sense of speculative optimism will flood the market, favoring prestige projects and major altcoins. Yet, the opposition between Jupiter and Pluto in July indicates a power struggle between institutional whales and the decentralized community, potentially leading to a mid-year peak followed by sharp volatility as the market decides who will control the new digital rails. 2026 is classified as a volatile bullish transition year, with a sentiment score of 6.510. The year begins under the heavy weight of Saturn, forcing a cleanup of the market, but evolves into a high-speed speculative environment driven by Mars and Jupiter. Investors should prepare for a difficult Q1 followed by a massive expansionary period in Q2, July, August, with the year-end, December, showing some bullish momentum once again. 2026 offers unprecedented opportunities for innovation within the post-crisis economy. The dismantling of legacy systems is expected to facilitate the rise of stablecoin and XRP-based networks, providing much-needed stability following the initial systemic shocks. Furthermore, gold and key cryptocurrencies are likely to undergo significant price resets as global demand and policy shifts align with this decentralized revolution. While 2020 SAXS astrological configurations suggest a succession of overlapping crises, ranging from public health confusion and geopolitical brinkmanship to technological failures and financial exposure, they also present unprecedented opportunities. The dismantling of long-standing structures and outdated financial systems, though disruptive, creates a vacuum for innovation. This environment could facilitate the rise of stablecoin and XRP-based networks to stabilize the post-crisis economy. Consequently, gold and other key cryptocurrencies may experience significant price resets, driven by evolving global demand and policy shifts, as the world seeks new definitions of value amidst this decentralized financial revolution. Despite a neutral overall yearly sentiment score of 510 to 610, this is a high-speed environment where profound systemic rebirth is preceded by intense global turmoil and crisis, and where fortunes can be made or lost rapidly, particularly within crypto and precious metals markets. The shifting status of the US dollar and hard assets. The US dollar index, DXY, faces a period of profound vulnerability in 2026 as Pluto continues its journey through Aquarius. Pluto's presence in the sign of the collective and decentralization suggests a steady erosion of the dollar's hegemony as a global reserve currency. As the Saturn-Neptune conjunction potentially triggers a reset of sovereign debt, traditional safe havens like gold and silver are poised for a significant revaluation. In archetypal terms, when the ye old king, the fiat system, falls ill under Neptune's fog, the collective returns to the ye old gods of hard money. We may see a strategic price reset for precious metals to stabilize the new financial system, serving as a physical anchor for an otherwise digital and ethereal economic landscape. Ultimately, 2026 will serve as a crucible for systemic rebirth, where the deconstruction of the old world allows for the emergence of a new financial landscape built upon transparency, digital efficiency, and an entirely redefined global understanding of wealth. The overarching theme emphasizes that during this period, the chaos of the new will likely prove far more profitable than the perceived safety of the old, provided investors demonstrate the adaptability required to navigate the intense periods of reevaluation that inevitably follow such profound astrological and financial shifts. The 589 XRP Riddle Unveiled, the Bearable Guy's Prophecy and the Hidden Code. 2026, the year of unraveling, a cosmic blueprint for financial transformation. The year 2026 looms on the horizon, not merely as another progression of the calendar, but as a potential epochal turning point for the global financial system. Whispers emanating from ancient numerological traditions, celestial mechanics, and even modern pop culture point towards a profound unraveling, a dissolution of old structures paving the way for a new era. At the heart of this prophetic convergence lies the Bearable Guy's XRP 589 Riddle, a complex tapestry weaving together financial astrology, gematria, and tarot numerology to forecast what could be the greatest financial revelation of our time: the rise of a new digital reserve currency and a systemic global reset. The XRP 589 Riddle has captivated a corner of the internet for years, originating from a cryptic hint by the Bearable Guy. Follow the spiral of time, when the 589th coin moves, watch the global tide shift. This intriguing statement, often linked to the enigmatic works of W. D. Gann and his Tunnel Through the Air, suggests a precise moment of trigger for a monumental shift. The riddle gained notoriety through its alleged prediction of a 2026 Phoenix reserve currency, a narrative echoed in a 2018 episode of The Simpsons where Bart Simpson is seen writing 589 on a chalkboard, and even earlier in The Economist's 1988 cover depicting a phoenix arising from burning fiat currency, heralding a new global medium of exchange. This ongoing thread implies a hidden blueprint, a coded message about the impending liquidity crisis and the dawn of a digital reserve, meticulously laid out across various unexpected media. Decoding 589, gematria, numerology, and the whispers of change. The number 589, when subjected to the ancient art of gematria and numerology, yields an astonishing array of phrases that paint a vivid picture of impending change and revelation. Phrases like, "a storm is coming," "millions of dollars," "disfigured dollar," and "check the numbers" strongly suggest a looming financial crisis and a need for scrutiny of the current system. The deeper implications emerge with "the code of a number," "decipher information," and "the end of black magic spells," hinting at the unveiling of hidden truths and the dismantling of manipulative forces. Critically, we find Real ID, The Dollar Crash, First Horseman, ISO XRP, and Crossing the Bridge, alluding to the collapse of the dollar, a cataclysmic event, the standardization of XRP, and the transition to a new financial paradigm. Further phrases such as Declaration of Independence, Full Control, D-Day Freedom, and The Turning speak to a struggle for sovereignty and a pivotal moment where control shifts, potentially liberating individuals from an old system, while Ripple the Bull and Ripple Moon Rays directly connect to the digital asset XRP and its potential ascendancy. This numerical matrix of 589 thus acts as a prophetic key, linking disparate events and concepts to a singular, transformative period. Astrology and Tarot's glimpse into 2026. From Denarius to Digital, the phoenix of a new era. Cosmic crossroads, navigating the spiral of time, preparing for the great shift. The celestial clock of 2026 reveals a series of powerful astrological alignments, each carrying profound financial and societal implications, amplified by their corresponding tarot numerology. The year begins with Pluto, the planet of deep transformation, power, and hidden finance, Tarot 20, Judgment, firmly entrenched in Aquarius, the sign of decentralization, networking, and social justice. This long-term transit signals a fundamental restructuring of institutional and corporate power, shifting towards more collective and distributed models, challenging the shadow finance operations of the past. The potential Black Swanny event of 2026 is highlighted by the exact Saturn-Neptune conjunction on February 20th in the fiery sign of Aries. Saturn, Tarot 21, the world, representing structure, regulation, and limits, clashes with Neptune, Tarot 11, the Hanged Man, the planet of illusion, dissolution, and liquid assets like fiat currency. Their union in Aries, Tarot 4, the Emperor, ruled by Mars, a sign of volatile new beginnings, initiation, and speed, foretells a profound liquidity crunch. This cosmic collision signifies the potential burst of illusionary financial bubbles and the dissolution of old monetary structures. Numerologically, Saturn, 3, plus Neptune, 7, plus Aries Aleph, 1, coalesce to the master number 11, which reduces to 2, duality, balance, yet the cycle itself spans 36 years, 3 plus 6 is equal to 9, symbolizing culmination and universal law, a concept intriguingly linked to Tesla's idea of zero-point energy and universal abundance. Further seismic shifts arrive on April 26, when Uranus, Tarot 022, the Fool, the planet of technological innovation and disruption, enters Gemini, Tarot 6, the Lovers. This 7-year transit in an air sign promises a revolution in financial information, communication, and networking, potentially creating the technological bridge from the old SWIFT system to new, decentralized blockchain finance. Following this, June 19 sees Chiron, the Wounded Healer, enter Taurus, Tarot 5, the Hierophant, the sign of value and resources, suggesting a period of fundamental healing and reevaluation of our financial wounds and what we truly deem valuable. June 30 brings Jupiter, Tarot 10, Wheel of Fortune, representing big financial institutions and expansion, into Leo, Tarot 8, Strength, a sign associated with gold, sovereignty, and central authority. This amplifies the theme of traditional wealth. Just weeks later, on July 20, a potent Jupiter-Pluto opposition marks the full moon of the cycle that began with their conjunction in 2020. This alignment suggests a culmination of the seeds planted during the initial crisis, potentially manifesting as a massive power struggle or a public revelation concerning global finance, determining the fate of major institutions. Perhaps the most internationally significant alignment occurs on July 4, 2026, marking the 250th birthday of the USA. This auspicious date coincides with the nation's Pluto return, a rare and profound astrological event signaling a complete transformation of its identity, power structures, and indeed, its financial foundations. Simultaneously, Mars, Tarot 16, the Tower, representing conflict and sudden destruction, makes an exact conjunction with Uranus, Tarot 022, the Fool, on this very day. This explosive combination points to revolutionary, perhaps even cataclysmic, changes for the American economy and its role in the global financial order. The year also features crucial eclipses, a total lunar eclipse in Virgo, Tarot 9, the Hermit, on March 3, and a partial lunar eclipse in Pisces, Tarot 18-9, the Moon, on August 28. These events on the nodal axis signify significant karmic clearings and the illumination of hidden truths, particularly concerning purity and illusion in finance. Finally, a powerful Leo stellium from November 11 to 16, featuring a Mars-Jupiter South Node conjunction in Leo opposite the North Node in Aquarius, presents a dramatic culmination. This configuration symbolizes a final, decisive clash between entrenched power, traditional gold-backed wealth, Leo, and the inevitable future of decentralized, humanitarian systems, Aquarius, signaling the ultimate crossing of the bridge into a new financial reality. From Denarius to digital, the phoenix of a new era. The combined weight of these numerological codes and astrological omens points towards a monumental redefinition of money and power in 2026. The analogy to the rise of the Roman Empire and its silver denarius becomes particularly poignant here. The denarius, a standardized and widely accepted currency, was pivotal to Rome's economic dominance. In today's context, as the existing fiat system shows signs of stress and fragility, the need for a new, globally accepted, and efficient medium of exchange becomes paramount. The phoenix, on The Economist's cover from the 80s, rising from the ashes of old currencies, directly mirrors the symbolic ascension of XRP. Just as Rome's denarius facilitated trade and empire building, XRP, with its proposed ISO standards and cross-border settlement capabilities, could emerge as a digital denarius, underpinning a new global financial architecture, a true digital reserve currency rising from the ashes of the old. The Bearable Guy's Riddle, alongside the ancient wisdom of Gematria and the cosmic calendar of astrology, illuminates 2026 as the year when this phoenix takes flight, an unraveling that promises not chaos, but a recalibration of global value and power. Navigating the spiral of time, preparing for the great shift. The convergences detailed within the 589 riddle, from ancient numerical patterns to celestial mechanics and even pop culture synchronicity, paint a compelling picture of a world on the cusp of profound financial transformation in 2026. It suggests a journey through the air, from one system to another, a liquidity crunch triggering a grand reset, moving from centralized control towards a decentralized future. Understanding these energetic currents, from the dissolution of old illusions to the birth of new digital standards, offers not a prophecy of inevitable doom, but a blueprint for conscious navigation. As the spiral of time unfolds, the wisdom embedded in these ancient and modern codes beckons us to prepare for the great shift, to witness the unraveling, and to brace ourselves for the dawn of a new financial era where the XRP Phoenix may indeed rise. Q1 of 2026. Mars, Pluto, and the unraveling of debt systems. Explosive triggers. The overarching theme of 2026 is the birth of a new era. It is a year where the chaos of the new is far more profitable than the safety of the old, provided one can navigate the intense periods of reevaluation that occur in the wake of such profound astrological shifts. Between late January and mid-March, the financial skies grow increasingly volatile. Mars enters Aquarius on January 23 and quickly conjuncts Pluto on January 27, forming a combustible alliance in the sign of Aquarius, the archetype of networks, collective movements, and technological finance. This alignment suggests coercive power plays, cyber attacks on financial institutions, or panic-driven withdrawals from digital banks. The Mercury-Mars-Pluto stellium from January 18 to 22 squares Uranus in Taurus during February, igniting sudden sell-offs, regulatory shocks, and a crisis of confidence in traditional stores of value like gold and treasury bonds. These aspects reflect a market environment dominated by fear, manipulation, and technological vulnerability. Meanwhile, the Saturn-Neptune conjunction in early Aries blurs the line between real and imagined value, eroding public faith in central banks whose balance sheets may be revealed as built on speculative sand. The House of Pisces, ruled by illusion, hidden enemies, and subconscious fears, amplifies this sense of unraveling, as unseen losses emerge into daylight. Aquarius solar eclipse and Virgo lunar eclipse, the eclipsed foundation, digital grids and analytical breakdowns. Compounding the tension are two pivotal eclipses in early 2026, activating sensitive degrees in the financial zodiac. The annular solar eclipse on February 17 at 28 degrees Aquarius strikes at the core of technological finance, digital payment systems, blockchain networks, and decentralized banking infrastructure. Eclipses at critical degrees like 28 degrees signal the end of cycles and trigger events within 6 months, often abruptly. Aquarius rules innovation and collective systems, thus, this eclipse may precede or initiate a cyber-financial shock, such as a coordinated digital bank run, a failure in cross-border settlements, or the freezing of electronic assets. Just 2 weeks later, the total lunar eclipse at 12 degrees Virgo illuminates the shadow side of economic data, auditing systems, and financial services. Virgo governs analysis, hygiene, and precision. Its eclipse suggests that flawed models, manipulated statistics, or undetected errors in risk assessment will come to light, shaking investor confidence and exposing regulatory blind spots. These eclipses, combined with a retrograde Mercury in Pisces, February 26 to March 20, create a period of communication breakdowns, misinformation, and trading halts, perfect conditions for systemic failure. Saturn's entry into Aries, institutional stress and aggressive restructuring. Asset class evolution, stablecoins, silver, and the chaos of the new. The period from late January to mid-February 2026 stands as a pivotal moment in financial astrology, marked by a rare alignment of planetary forces that historically precede systemic collapse. The shift of Saturn, planet of boundaries, authority, and long-term consequence, into the fire sign Aries on February 14, 2026, signals a painful but necessary purge of unsustainable financial structures. Aries, a cardinal sign ruled by Mars, embodies urgency, conflict, and assertive action. In this context, Saturn's transit amplifies the fire sign's volatility, creating a tension between the need for disciplined reform and the explosive nature of Aries' energy. Historically, Saturn in Aries has correlated with sudden regulatory crackdowns, military-industrial finance crises, and central bank interventions. The symbolism is stark. Institutions face a choice between adaptive overhauls and violent dissolution. This transit also disrupts the established order, as Saturn's departure from Pisces, a water sign associated with illusion, debt, and emotional undercurrents, ends a phase where fragility was masked. Financial systems built on faith and faith alone, e.g., fractional reserves, cryptocurrencies with speculative valuations, become starkly exposed. Central banks, symbolized by Aries ruler Mars, may impose emergency measures such as currency controls, debt freezes, or asset seizures to prevent total collapse. The Saturn-Aries dynamic will likely fuel geopolitical tensions, as nations jostle to secure dwindling resources. As Saturn ingresses into Aries in the early months of the year, it signals a period of painful but necessary structural reform, particularly regarding central banks and global governance. This is the archetype of the sovereign reset, where governments may attempt to impose aggressive new regulations or austerity measures to stabilize collapsing legacy systems. Concurrently, Neptune's presence in Aries adds a layer of a visionary confusion, where the roadmap for the new financial system remains obscured by propaganda or technological growing pains. This combination creates deflationary pressure early in the year, leading to a significant market bottom as investors grapple with the reality that the old ways of banking are no longer viable. Saturn in Aries, 3 years of sovereign cooling and the rise of digital infrastructure. Stablecoins will likely face intense scrutiny and evolution as the regulatory hand of Saturn in Aries seeks to define what is legal in a decentralized world. This manifests in the form of evolving regulatory frameworks, increased scrutiny from financial authorities, and a push toward compliant, scalable blockchain solutions. While this may initially suppress speculative excess and contribute to early-year bearish sentiment, it ultimately serves to strengthen the legitimacy of the crypto ecosystem. Saturn in Aries brings a paradoxical energy, demanding bold action while imposing structural constraints. Saturn's ingress into Aries in February, initiating a 3-year phase emphasizing disciplined innovation, accountability, and the formalization of emerging crypto enterprises. In the wake of the liquidity freeze or banking crisis, global powers are compelled to introduce a new financial system anchored by centralized digital alternatives, CBDCs. Assets such as stablecoins and the XRP ledger are expected to emerge during this phase as the structural pipes for a new digital financial rail. Saturn conjunct Neptune, February 20th, the 2026 financial doomsday window, a cosmic convergence of crisis. The revelation of systemic fraud and collapse of trust. Western tropical financial astrology, which maps celestial movements to economic patterns through zodiac symbolism, identifies this timeframe as a critical juncture for banking upheaval, speculative asset crashes, and a forced reordering of global financial systems. Central to this period are 2 cataclysmic transits, Saturn entering Aries on February 14th and the Saturn-Neptune conjunction on February 20th. These events, compounded by a cascade of other astrological triggers, suggest a scenario where trust in institutions erodes rapidly, synthetic assets unravel, and austerity measures collide with mass panic. At the heart of the 2026 upheaval lies the once-in-4 decades Saturn-Neptune conjunction, culminating on February 20th at 1 degree Aries. This powerful transit marks the dissolution of long-standing financial illusions under the pressure of harsh reality. Saturn, the taskmaster of structure, limitation, and systemic order, meets Neptune, the dissolver of boundaries, the bringer of dreams and deception. Together in Aries, a cardinal fire sign symbolizing initiation, aggression, and sudden change, this conjunction triggers a crisis of confidence in institutions that govern money. Historically, Saturn-Neptune conjunctions have coincided with major economic collapses, the Great Depression of the 1930s, the rumblings of the 2008 crisis, with its exact hit in 2016, and the speculative bursting of the dot-com bubble in the early 1980s. In 2026, this same pattern reaches its zenith, signaling the exposure of hidden debts, synthetic asset fraud, and the failure of fiat-based trust systems. The moment Saturn enters Aries on February 14th intensifies this shift, ushering in an era of forced austerity, regulatory crackdowns, and militarized financial responses, particularly from central banks and military-industrial complexes governed by Aries' archetypal domain. The meeting of Saturn, which represents regulation and debt, and Neptune, which represents liquidity and illusion, leads to the formal dissolution of fiat-based architecture. This alignment often coincides with periods of systemic dissolution, such as the bursting of bubbles inflated by excessive liquidity. This aspect may coincide with regulatory confusion, failed projects, or the collapse of over-leveraged ventures, contributing to market uncertainty during the first quarter. In practical terms, this conjunction exposes hidden liabilities such as synthetic assets, e.g., shadow banking derivatives, uncollateralized stablecoins, or pumped crypto tokens, while triggering regulatory investigations and liquidity crises. Neptune's influence, paired with Aries' abruptness, suggests a scenario where banks fail overnight, stock markets plunge without warning, and digital payment systems falter under cyber attacks or systemic gridlock. The crisis will not be confined to traditional finance. Decentralized protocols and fintech platforms may face collapse due to algorithmic failures or exploitative lending practices. During the first quarter of 2026, this transit suggests intense global uncertainty, ranging from public health challenges to the collapse of outdated banking structures. It represents a painful but necessary overhaul, where the confusion and exposure of systemic weaknesses force the formal dissolution of the fiat-based financial architecture. The Saturn-Neptune conjunction and a hard reset in Aries. The cosmic tipping point for financial evolution and the Great Financial Awakening. The Saturn-Neptune conjunction is poised to be a watershed moment for global finance, marked by a sequence of astrological alignments that Western tropical financial astrology identifies as a crisis-to-reset cascade. This evolution is not linear but cyclical, with distinct phases of breakdown, emergency response, structural reset, and regulatory solidification. The critical period of January to February 2026 acts as the initial catalyst, a cosmic tipping point where the rigid, restructuring force of Saturn collides with the dissolving nature of Neptune. This powerful conjunction, exact on February 20, 2026, at the very first degree of Aries, signals the end of a century-long cycle and precipitates a great financial awakening. During this window, public awareness of the inherent insolvency of fiat systems will peak, exposing the fragility of both traditional and digital financial ecosystems. The immediate fallout is predicted to be severe, with bank failures, sovereign debt spirals, and cyber disruptions, yet this chaos is viewed as a necessary threshold for the birth of a more resilient economic reality. Saturn represents structures, regulation, and debt, while Neptune symbolizes liquidity, illusions, and the collective psyche. Their meeting in Aries, the sign of new beginnings, heralds a hard reset for the global financial system. This sovereign reset may involve a significant liquidity freeze or banking crisis, compelling global powers to introduce a new financial system anchored by centralized digital alternatives. Governments attempt to impose aggressive regulations or austerity measures to manage the cooling of the old economic model. The conjunction between Saturn and Neptune in February symbolizes the dissolution of outdated financial paradigms and the emergence of ambiguous, idealistic, or even deceptive new systems. The dismantling of legacy financial systems is expected to facilitate the rapid rise of stablecoin and XRP-based networks, providing much-needed stability in the wake of initial systemic shocks. Gold and key cryptocurrencies are also slated for significant price resets as global demand and policy shifts align with this decentralized revolution. The precious metals market, specifically silver, may begin to decouple from traditional industrial cycles, evolving into a hybrid asset that functions as both a tech commodity and a robust store of value. Q2 of 2026, the path from systemic collapse to a new architecture. Emergency measures and a new design. Following the systemic breakdown of the first quarter, the mid-year phases are dedicated to emergency measures and the formal introduction of a new financial architecture. Historical precedents involving the Saturn-Neptune conjunction, such as the 1933 U.S. banking holiday, suggest that governments will impose emergency liquidity measures while decentralized systems face intense scrutiny. From late April to mid-May 2026, a pivotal window opens for the formal unveiling of new infrastructure. This period is expected to see G7 and G20 emergency summits, the launch of stablecoin pilots, and official announcements regarding interoperable central bank digital currencies, CBDCs, and a gold-backed crypto standard. The transition is driven by a desperate need to replace failing legacy systems with transparent, blockchain-based solutions underpinned by tangible assets. Uranus in Gemini, 2026 to 2033. The Great Disruption, call for rebirth and the rise of financial innovation. The Internet of Value. The energy shifts dramatically on April 26, 2026, as Uranus leaves Taurus and enters the air sign of Gemini. This ingress marks the end of a 7-year cycle focused on tangible assets and material resources, transitioning instead into an era defined by the velocity of information and the decentralization of networks. Western tropical financial astrology identifies this as the Great Disruption, a period where the very fabric of communication, trade, and currency is rewired. The focus moves away from earthbound volatility toward a high-speed, digital reality where the tokenization of assets becomes the norm. This transit signals the conclusion of the Wild West days of cryptocurrency, birthing a sophisticated, high-velocity digital economy. Because Uranus is the planet of innovation and Gemini rules the exchange of information, this transit creates an exceptionally bullish environment for the Internet of Value. We can anticipate a rapid acceleration in the adoption of blockchain infrastructure, artificial intelligence, AI, and Web3 technologies. The market narrative will shift toward assets that offer high utility and speed, favoring technologies that facilitate instant communication and decentralized networks. While the infrastructure of the crypto market is set for a massive leap forward, the environment will be intensely speculative. This period is characterized by a radical departure from traditional market behaviors, driven instead by rapid information cycles and technological breakthroughs. Chiron enters Taurus and Jupiter into Leo. The fall of fiat hegemony and the window of opportunity, stable launch conditions in spring and summer. Late April to mid-June. The entry of Uranus into Gemini spells unprecedented volatility for the US dollar index, DXY. As the world begins to price in a future beyond traditional fiat hegemony, the dollar is expected to experience erratic swings and sharp revaluations. The narrative of a digital dollar, or a decentralized alternative, will gain mainstream momentum, challenging the stability of legacy financial systems. In this climate, high-utility assets designed to bridge the gap between traditional banking and the new digital ledger reality, such as XRP, are likely to be favored. This transition will be marked by flash crashes and parabolic pumps, reflecting a market that is rapidly reassessing what constitutes a stable store of value in a digital age. Between late April and mid-June, favorable aspects build momentum for systemic renewal. Venus trines Pluto on April 28, and the Sun trines Pluto on May 26, both empowering elite-backed financial overhauls with deep, transformative influence. These trines suggest that powerful institutions and shadow networks will align behind a new paradigm, likely one transitioning from fiat-based systems to digital, asset-backed alternatives. Mercury conjuncts Uranus on May 18, a signature moment for the announcement of revolutionary financial technology, possibly a central bank digital currency, CBDC, framework or a globally integrated blockchain payment system. Mars enters Taurus on the same day, grounding the volatile energy of change with stability, particularly in asset valuation and gold-backed instruments. This period is further sanctified by Chiron's entry into Taurus on June 19, symbolizing the healing of historical monetary wounds through the revaluation of gold and cryptocurrencies. As Jupiter stations direct and enters Leo on June 30, the speculative nature of finance reawakens, fueling bullish sentiment around digital assets like Ethereum, Solana, Cardano, and especially XRP, astrologically favored as a bridge currency between traditional and digital systems. This ingress marks the beginning of a 7-year cycle that will redefine how money moves across borders and devices. With Uranus now in Gemini, innovation accelerates, especially in blockchain interoperability, decentralized finance, DeFi, and machine-to-machine transactions. Q3 of 2026, the Jupiter in Leo surge, a summer of speculation. Institutional struggles and repricing assets. The mid-year period, specifically June through July, marks a pivotal shift in collective psychology as Jupiter transitions from the cautious sign of Cancer into the theatrical and bold sign of Leo. This movement signals a distinct move away from protective, fear-based market behavior toward exuberant risk-taking. Dubbed the Summer of Speculation, this window promises a powerful rally likely driven by new technology narratives and a pervasive, get-rich-quick fervor. Bitcoin and various altcoins are poised for explosive growth during this time, potentially reaching a yearly peak in July and August. However, because Leo carries the archetype of the bubble, this rally will likely be fueled more by hype and excess liquidity than by underlying economic health. While it is a period of a royal expansion where new financial titans are celebrated, the shadow of Leo suggests an overextension that will eventually require a correction. This high-velocity atmosphere allows for the rapid adoption of digital assets and reshapes global power dynamics, though it remains prone to flash crashes and parabolic pumps driven by news cycles. Institutional struggles and repricing assets. During this summer surge, the focus shifts from crisis management to the revaluation of assets and the establishment of a new monetary order. The ingress of Chiron into Taurus on June 19 initiates a healing process for value systems, restoring confidence in gold as a primary store of value. This is immediately followed by Jupiter's move into Leo on June 30, which amplifies the narrative, suggesting a high-profile revaluation of Treasury gold reserves. Concurrently, the Mars-Uranus conjunction in July acts as a cosmic spark capable of triggering either parabolic rallies or abrupt crashes, often both within a compressed time frame. This intense aspect favors high-risk, high-reward strategies but warns against overexposure during emotionally charged market peaks. A critical astrological aspect during this period is the opposition between Jupiter and Pluto in July, which suggests an intense power struggle between institutional whales and the decentralized community. This tension indicates that while the market may reach a yearly peak driven by hype and liquidity, it will also face sharp volatility as the world decides who will ultimately control the new digital financial rails. This speculative explosion promotes the reshaping of global power dynamics, though it remains highly volatile. The final eclipses and the path forward. Climax and consolidation. The new paradigm, XRP, gold, and the Digital-Fiat bridge. The year reaches its financial and astrological apex in late July through mid-September, culminating in a total solar eclipse on August 12 at 20 degrees Leo. This eclipse acts as a powerful reset button, predicted to usher in an official monetary resume where a digital gold standard is established, with Treasury gold potentially repricing in the per ounce range. By this time, XRP is expected to be enshrined as the primary inter-CBDC bridge currency, with other major digital assets like ETH and SOL earning recognized reserve status within sovereign digital treasuries. The eclipse bursts speculative manias, targeting inflated valuations in equities, real estate, or meme-driven crypto markets. Leo governs ego, leadership, and public displays of wealth. Its eclipse may coincide with high-profile collapses of financial figures or institutions. Following this, the partial lunar eclipse on August 28 at 4 degrees Pisces brings a final wave of dissolution, clearing the karmic debt of the old system. These events unfold under a tense configuration. Saturn retrograde in Aries opposes Mars, while Venus opposes Saturn and the Sun squares Uranus. Pluto's continued presence in Aquarius demands structural overhaul, and Uranus' impending retrograde on September 10 suggests that nascent digital systems may face temporary setbacks or regulatory scrutiny. Yet within the House of Commerce, Gemini, these challenges catalyze innovation, particularly in liquidity solutions and multi-chain transactions. The new paradigm, XRP, gold, and the Digital-Fiat bridge. By the second half of 2026, the contours of the new financial system come into focus, with the Venus-Jupiter conjunction on June 9 and the Jupiter-Neptune trine on July 20 infusing the transition with optimism, idealism, and international cooperation. Astrological patterns strongly favor a gold-referenced, blockchain-enabled architecture, with XRP positioned as a central player due to its Libra-Aquarius resonance, bridging fairness, technology, and global settlement. Mercury-Uranus synergies support instant cross-border payments, while Chiron in Taurus enables a psychological and economic healing through asset revaluation. The North Node's shift into Aquarius in August begins to lift the Piscean karmic burden of debt and illusion, paving the way for a more transparent, equitable financial age. Q4 of 2026, the October correction and the start of the new post-Fiat world. Mars opposes Pluto and Sun opposes Saturn, austerity under the scales, disillusionment in the last quarter, and a corrective cleansing. Sun opposition Neptune, September 26, sets the stage for Q4's sobering truth. Under this alignment in tropical Libra, market optimism collides with the specter of scandal and shattered illusions. Investors may uncover hidden liabilities or systemic weaknesses in both digital and traditional assets. Gold and silver, though challenged by a tightening liquidity environment, begin to reassert their role as archetypal safe harbors, a subtle signal that the coming correction will unmask overextended speculative ventures. On October 3, Mars in Leo confronts Pluto in Aquarius, heralding corrective destruction across financial edifices that cannot withstand scrutiny. This is the moment when nascent projects, especially those lacking tangible utility, are violently expelled from the market. Expect heightened trading volume, panic liquidations, and the first tremors of a deep retracement in Bitcoin and broader cryptocurrency valuations. Far from a terminal collapse, this purge is the necessary testing of the new structure emerging from 2020's AXS midsummer euphoria. Just one day later, on October 4, the Sun opposes Saturn in tropical Libra, tightening the screws on leadership and fiscal policy. Austerity measures, regulatory clampdowns, and public outcry over economic fairness will dominate headlines. Central banks and governments may struggle to recalibrate stimulus programs, forcing market participants to confront a leaner, more disciplined environment. Venus retrograde in Libra Scorpio, revaluation of alliances. Mid-October market low, testing the new structure. In early October, Mercury square to Pluto and Mars intensifies propaganda and rhetorical skirmishes. Official statements grow combative, social media debates spiral into virtual wars of words, and public protests against perceived injustices gain momentum. This communicative friction often precedes decisive shifts in trade policies and treaty negotiations, reinforcing the great pivot from fiat-centric systems toward digitized, asset-backed frameworks. From October 3 through November 14, Venus retrograde traverses the axis of Libra and Scorpio, compelling a deep reassessment of partnerships, treaties, and capital flows. In financial markets, overvalued assets are exposed and repositioned. Underworld debts, both literal and figurative, come to light as credit markets tighten. This retrograde invites investors to question emotional attachments to speculative highs, foreshadowing the mid-October low that will test the resilience of summer's gains. By mid-October, the combined effects of planetary retrogrades, oppositions, and squares coalesce into the year's nadir. Liquidity corridors constrict, traditional safe havens face momentary downturns, and crypto markets endure a final shakeout of weak hands. This trough is not an end in itself, but a critical diagnostic. Only projects with robust fundamentals and clear real-world applications will survive the purge, laying the groundwork for the year's closing rally. Mars, Jupiter conjunction with the South Node, the bounce back. Anchoring the new order. On November 16, Mars and Jupiter unite in late Leo, unleashing the most potent burst of bullish energy all year. This conjunction acts as a cosmic trigger for a powerful market rebound, catalyzing renewed capital inflows into both legacy assets and regulated, gold-backed cryptocurrencies. Yet Saturn's lingering retrograde and the stellium with the South Node influence tempers this enthusiasm with caution, ensuring that the rally consolidates real structural gains rather than igniting unchecked mania. Late November brings further volatility. The Sun opposing Uranus on November 25 may spark sudden political or economic shocks, flash protests, surprise tariff announcements, or breakthroughs in digital currency legislation. Then, on December 4, Mars squares Uranus, heightening the risk of forceful confrontations both in boardrooms and on the geopolitical stage. These impulses, however disruptive, serve to finalize the parameters of the new financial paradigm. On December 10, Saturn stations direct in tropical Aries, symbolizing the solidification of regulatory frameworks and tax regimes around digitized, asset-backed money. This structural realignment shifts the world from reactive crisis management into a proactive, rule-based post-fiat environment. Institutions formerly resistant to change begin publishing compliance guidelines for tokenized gold vehicles and hybrid digital fiat instruments. As 2026 draws to a close, Mercury turns direct in Sagittarius, enabling clear communication of global treaties and the formal announcement of interoperable financial infrastructure. Media outlets amplify optimistic narratives around the newly implemented systems, while institutional capital cements its position in the emerging, regulated crypto gold space. The Great Pivot culminates in a decisive transition to a digitized economic era, one tempered by the lessons learned through 2020 SAXS planetary crucible. This concludes our 2026 crypto astrology and market analysis. Thank you for watching and see you next time.